Welcome to the deep dive of the new map Unrestricted Section. It is a remake of the Orcs Must Die Unchained map and arrived in the recent 1.1 patch. The Orders library needs to be defended from waves of orcs. Luckily, the bookcases provide ample obstacles and wall space for us to use in the fight. I'm going to cover a few different topics in this video, so check the time codes on the screen and in the description if there's a specific thing you want to watch. Let's get started. First, let's do a quick walkthrough of the map. Up here on the north side, we have two gates that are open on wave 1. The enemies come out, group up, head through this low ceiling section, then this higher ceiling section before splitting up and heading to the middle of the library. If we head west, we come to two staircases that both head up to a gate that opens up on wave 3. Heading back east, but staying up top this time, we come to two sentinel priestesses we can hire and a series of cool looking walkways that are unfortunately only useful for shooting down at the enemy from relative safety. You cannot actually get any enemies up here. Dropping back down, we come to a much larger low ceiling section that leads to the last gate, which opens up on wave 4. That then opens back up into the middle of the library again, where there are several bookcases that give ample wall space and a little bit of ceiling space. Then at the southern end of the room, we have the rift itself. That is the basic layout. One thing to note is that there are a few spaces on the ceiling where you can put traps. These like blue wooden kind of window looking things, you can place traps, whereas the grid of just wood you cannot place traps on. So there's a few extra spots for ceiling traps that you might miss at first glance. The best strategy that I've found on this map is to make use of the low ceilings in this eastern wing of the library, specifically this section right here that has very low ceilings and is just past this gate spawn. So the first thing we need to do is take all the other enemies and put them over into the low ceiling section. We can do that by just basically walling off right across the middle of the map. That'll force the other three gates to come through this passageway right here and head into this area where they will meet up with this. I believe this is the Dark Arts Gate. I might call it the East Gate by accident, but it's technically the Dark Arts Gate. The more you know. So I would use the last 6 barricades, something like this if we're going for just 16 barricades as a 4-player multiplayer game. And then you can route these guys over here. They'll all group up. Everyone will group up right here. You'll have some nice or decent straightaway here and a lot of opportunity for wall traps, low ceiling traps, which are some of the most powerful traps in the game with like the ceiling pounder and the haymaker. Do a lot. If you have some extra traps, you could do something like that, or if you have several extra barricades, you could do something like this and really do a lot of damage here. You could also put down some barricades in here, for example, force them all over into this section, and then you can, really make use of this wall area where they'll just all be grouped up against the wall. There's a lot of nice places to use barricades, just depending on what your goal is. Do extra damage to this gate, or maybe weaken those guys more. A lot of things you can do. But this is what I'm going to do because I'm going for 16 barricades, and let's look at what a trap setup might look like. For this setup, I'm using the ripsaws and rift barricades for my floor traps. I have the Wall Scorcher and the Wall Charger and the Morning Star for my wall traps. I have the Poison Emitter, the Acid Shower, and an Ice Lance for my ceiling traps. The idea being the buffed up ripsaws should do a lot of damage. Each one of these, well, almost all of these are boosted except for like the ones just very kind of on the sides. All of the rest are boosted by rift barricades. So those should do a lot of damage. And also the wall traps should do a lot of damage as well. Just realized I wanted to do that. And yeah, hopefully the poison is mostly there just to do another couple combo points. And we'll see how this goes. So let's give it a try. No leaks and no deaths. What more could you ask for? Even the close by gate didn't cause any problems. This should definitely be your go-to setup on this map. For the next barricade setup, we're going to be using the second hallway here. And so the first thing we need to do is block off the direct path to the rift. This will make all the enemies come through this small gap on the end. And from here, there's a couple different ways. We could try to use the whole hallway if we really want to Just use a lot of traps. The enemies will be a little bit unfocused as they go through, but we will have more space for floor traps. Bounce traps will do pretty well. I believe this is 17 barricades across here. And a lot of floor space, a lot of wall space. The ceiling space is a little bit patchwork, but still a lot of space for traps, and just do a ton here. But I'm gonna go for a more focused path that can make good use of physics traps. So let's sell those, and instead of going there, I'll go right here.
This will stop them in their tracks.
And with just 16 barricades, we've now forced them underneath the slope ceiling, and they'll keep underneath this high ceiling. So now we have better use of ceiling traps, and we can use physics traps such as the push trap or the flip trap to push them back over this barricade. And then they'll have to walk back around and start the little maze again. So I think I'm going to go with something like this. Let me set up some traps and we'll take a look at that. For this setup, I'm using tar, acid geysers, and rift barricades for the floor traps, arrow walls and spike walls for the wall traps, also a magic orb, and shock zappers and ice lances for the ceiling traps. The idea is that we slow down or freeze them as much as possible as they go through here slowly, then knock them back over the barricades with the spike walls, and then hopefully do heavy damage with the arrow walls and the shock zappers. So hopefully that works out. Let's give it a go. I had no deaths, but I did leak a Cyclops Druid that snuck by mid-wave, but otherwise things went smoothly. That said, there's not much room for anti-flyer traps, and any ballistas you place will shoot the regular wave too, unlike with the first setup, so flyers will be a consistent issue.
That was cool.
For this setup, we'll again be using the second alleyway between the bookshelves, kind of like I talked about before, with bounce traps this time instead of physics traps. So we have 16 barricades, as well as 2 rift barricades to buff up the bouncing magic orbs. That will hopefully just do a bunch of damage as the enemies just are stuck in this area for a long time, dealing with the tar, dealing with a couple ice lances around. We also have a couple high-flying bomb traps. They are bounce traps, but they're more specifically bomb traps, bomb dispensers. And we'll fill this in a lot more over time, but we just didn't have that much money, and a lot of bounce traps are pretty expensive. So let's give this a go and see how it works. I died once and managed not to leak at all. The other lost rift point was from opening the chest and getting skulls. Overall, it was very similar to the last setup, and so it can also run into issues with the flyers. As always, if you want to see how the barricade setups worked in their entirety, check the description for links to the full runs. There are almost a dozen chests, so let's get through this quickly. On the lower level near the middle is the first spawn. Just south of that around the bookcase is the second. In the northeast corner of the map, a location is hiding behind a bookshelf. On the opposite side of the lower level, a chest is nestled in against the bookcase. Heading upstairs in the north section above the gates is another place. The next is in the very end of the second floor behind a small pedestal. A chest can appear back in the middle of the second floor by the staircase. On the backside of that raised section, another chest can spawn. The next location is on the upper walkway around the northwest bookcase. The southeast bookcase upper walkway has yet another chest. And finally, one can spawn on the small lower walkway between the southern bookcases. Thank you for watching this deep dive video. If you know any information or strategies that you think I should have included, tell me in the comments. Also, let me know which maps you'd like to see a video for next. Later, War Mages.